Good morning, Cougs. You are listening to Slice of Seattle on KUGR, Cougar College Radio. It's a sports talk show where we're giving you updates, hot takes, and hopefully talk to some important people. It is a clear blue sky here on the Palouse, and I am joined in booth with the lovely Connor Simmons and Connor Seuferling. How you doing today, boys?
I'm doing great.
Doing fantastic.
Absolutely. We'll start it off. Cougar basketball is back on the Palouse tonight. They're going to be playing against St. Mary's. What time's that game at tonight?
Should be 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so this is a pretty important game. WC or Mountain West conference game for us, or WCC, correct? WCC,
yep.
correct? Yeah, I get it all mixed up. WCC game tonight. Connor, how are we feeling about that?
I don't like our chances, even though it's a home game. We just lost to Santa Clara by 20 something last night. That was pretty bad.
Ugh.
And we have 6 quad one opportunities coming up, but we've squandered every single one previously to this, whether it be Gonzaga, whether it be any of the games we've had recently. It just has not looked good. So yeah, I don't like our chances. We're about nearing halfway through WCC play. We've picked up some really tough losses. Almost barely beat San Diego. Lost to Pacific in a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
We just cannot be having that. And hey, good news, Isaiah Watts will be back today.
Okay.
Give us some depth for once. Hopefully that should push the rotation to about 9 guys. But
Yeah.
I don't think David Riley's happy with where we're at right now. And so uphill battle. Even if we pick up four of the next 6 quad one opportunities, we're still probably an NIT team. So sorry to break the reality to you guys.
Yeah, no, it's rough. I feel like there were a lot of high expectations for this Coug team coming into the season. Because we brought on the whole, basically all of Eastern Washington's coaching staff and their players and everything like that. And so we kind of expected us to be a little bit better this year. Than I think I was talking with you about this earlier. It's just injuries kind of killed us.
Oh, no
this
doubt
whole
about
season.
it. Well, and another thing, I was low-key surprised because we had guys with NBA, we had guys go to higher Division I teams and stuff like that. So you think there'd be a little bit of a drop-off.
Yeah.
And there has been. But I think, honestly, they're doing way better than I personally did think.
Yeah.
Because we brought in a new coach. We kept, I want to say, around 3-4 guys from the previous team last year. And we just brought in basically a whole new team with Eastern Washington and some other guys and bring in some other. So there was a weird chemistry thing, but they actually connected really well. And then, like I said, I think injuries really derailed us, as having a shorter man rotation, like the other Connor said, kind of kills just a whole man rotation. You don't know who you're really playing with sometimes, and you don't have all that. And then you're starting to get tired. It's starting to become the end of the season, kind of finish, run, and that's what's kind of just be happening. Still, I think a relatively positive season in the most part, something to build off for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we started the season with playing 1 to 2 freshmen. Now we're playing 4 freshmen.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big change, and a lot of them are still very inexperienced and are developing their skill sets. And so having a guy like Parker Garrett's or Tomas or any of those guys having to push into this bigger role, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
And then losing your top scorer and arguably your most dynamic player in Cedric Coward, what are you supposed to do? Because that backcourt at the start of the season with Nate Calmes and Coward, that was just it's hard to stop because one guy can drive at any moment, the other guy's an inside-out threat. It's what do you do? But Riley's done a decent job adapting, but
it's really hard.
There's been a lot of games where it's just he just cannot get his team together.
Yeah. With that being said, though, I did want to give a shout-out as we're heading off at Lawan Watts, second triple-double in WSU history.
Yeah.
He got that, I believe, 2 nights ago or something like that. So he's been dominating still, but I also thought it was really surprising that was our second ever.
Yeah.
Because you
That
think
we haven't
about
done anything else,
Russell Westbrook. I know he's obviously one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Yeah.
But dude averaged it for 4 seasons, and I just think that's insane. But still, shout out to Lawan Watts. And
No, absolutely.
Tells you how tough college basketball is.
Yeah, exactly. On a brighter note too, we want to talk about Wazoo Club Hockey.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty good. They've clinched a playoff spot in the Pac-8 conference. So later this year, in a couple weeks, they're going to be going down to Eastern Washington playing that. They played last night against USC. It was a close game. They lost that one. They'll play against them tonight again down in Anaheim. And then they're back at home they have one more home game against Eastern Washington on February 1st.
Yeah, next Saturday, and then February 31st, they're at Eastern.
So it's 2 games against Eastern Washington that are really important for them. I mean, they've been looking pretty solid, though. I mean, they played against Gonzaga, beat them the first night 12-1. Second night was a little bit closer, but 9-7 or something like that. We talked a little bit about that on our last show, too, but just a lot of fun coming out of that club hockey team.
Well, since 2025, I think it's been a relatively way different team, a quote-unquote funner team, if that kind of makes sense and everything like that. So I just want to see them keep doing good, and if it comes to the playoffs, I'd love to see this team make a run.
Yeah.
Because this is a great team. I know all the guys love each other and everything like that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's nice to see the hockey team being in a place where they're at, hopefully getting some more attention, building themselves up.
Yes.
And I know you've talked with Coach Lupinacci quite a bit, and it seems like he's a great guy, got a great personality, and so it's great to see this team coming together.
Oh, yeah. He loves that team. He loves it a lot. Let's shift. Let's talk about the Mariners. And I think the elephant in the room that we definitely got to address is the fact that the one, the only, Ichiro Suzuki was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame earlier this week, and he just barely missed a unanimous vote because of one voter. It puts that it was like 99.7% basically.
Yeah.
Which is, and he's one of, I think if you look at the 99% club in the voting for the Hall of Fame, it's like it's only Mariners and only Yankees. And it's just really weird. It's just super frustrating because he's a guy. If anyone was going to get a unanimous vote, I would say it should have been Ichiro Suzuki.
That's such a weird situation because there's at least 4 of the players that I quote unquote deserve the 100%, and I believe Rivera's the only one.
Yeah.
Like how is Griffey also not like 100%?
Exactly.
I think some people are doing this to get attention on the subject.
Yeah.
I think they're truly doing it not because they don't believe Ichiro's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
They're doing it to get attention, to get talked about, all this. I just don't get a thought process behind it. If it truly is like, oh, he's not a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense.
I just don't get everything he did for the game. Like, how? Where? Like, even if you don't think for some reason that he's not up to par with the other guys in the class in terms of play level, like, just look at what he did for the game. Though. Like, that simple. The culture he built with the Mariners, how much he matters to this franchise, especially with a franchise that only got, I would argue, 3 or 4 greats that actually stand out throughout the franchise's entire history. Like, I just don't get it. Obviously, I'm not going to send death threats to the guy, but like, go drink over it and rethink your life decisions.
That's one of the things that makes me even love Ichiro more is like when they asked him about that, like how you react to the fact that he says like I want to have sit down with this guy, have a drink, and just talk it over. How can you not love Ichiro, dude? He's just like one of the nicest guys, and also I mean like what you said, like what he did for the game. I think about the fact that it was like I think it was his like 5th or 6th at bat in the major leagues. Comes up, his batting average was like 250 or something like that coming into the at bat. Gets a base hit or something, makes his batting average, I believe, 290, right, or something. And the fact that blows my mind is that for the rest of his professional career, his batting average never fell below 290. And that's like to me, you want to talk about consistency, and like there's so many guys who are Hall of Fame talent, right? Who they'll start off they'll have a great couple seasons, then they'll hit a slump, and then they'll only bat like 250 or 220 or something like that. They have an abysmal season. Ichiro never had that. His batting average never fell below 290, and it's because I believe he's the best hitter in professional baseball. I mean, you could say it's like, Barry Bonds, he's hitting home runs or something like that, and these guys who are just cranking the ball. That's great and all, but I think the guys who get overlooked are the guys like Ichiro Suzuki, the guys who are just they're poking base hits, they're getting on base, they're fast, they're just all around great players. They can find ways to get hits, because when we talk about baseball, you talk about small ball, he was a small ball player, and small ball wins baseball games, 10 times out of 10, it always will.
And that is also a crazy stat, but just looking at you're 1 vote shy. I bet you the guy knew he was the only person in the room. I don't know how they do it or stuff, like where they are, if they're doing online.
He knows he's going to cause controversy.
And it's like he did it on purpose. There's just no way you're looking at like, especially because you have to be relatively high in the baseball marketing world, somewhat high in the baseball world in general, to be voting for Hall of Famers. Like you're a pretty reliable person that knows baseball.
You're a baseball writer. It's what you do.
And they probably, quote unquote, know more about than us and baseball and just everything like that. And so he has to sit down, study, look at all these stats, and be like, nah, I can't get that through my head. So I have to assume it's for controversy. Or like he can't get the 100%.
You talk about a guy that's like the ultimate contact hitter combined with somebody who's got one of the most ridiculous arms in the entirety of baseball history. Like I just don't understand it. I'm gonna put it flat at that. It doesn't make any sense. It's incomprehensible. But shout out to that random guy for being a rebel, being a maverick, I guess.
You got dinner with Ichiro out of it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if that's what you want to go for.
Got it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ichiro's the first ever Japanese-born player to be
Yes.
inducted into the Hall of Fame.
That's crazy.
And he could have even made more history if it was unanimous. It unanimously voted first Japanese-born player into the Hall of Fame. It would have been like a cherry on top. It would have been perfect. And it
100%.
just got spoiled. It's like a read the room situation, dude. It's like, look, we all understand this guy changed the game of baseball. He opened it up for Japanese-born players to be able to come in. He's the reason he walked so that Shohei could run. Like, that's the best way of looking at it.
Oh, for
guys like
sure,
Shohei
for
Ohtani
sure.
can come in and play the way they
All
can.
these young Japanese guys coming in now.
Yeah, and there's a market for Japanese players to
Yes.
come in and play in the major leagues because they are incredibly talented. And then he opened the door for a lot of those guys. I mean, I know there were Japanese players in the MLB before Ichiro, but he opened the door for them to be able to come in and start playing in the major leagues. That's just it's just so important to the game.
Yeah. And like you even said, which we're talking from the impact he made on baseball. That's a cultural impact.
Yes.
That probably gets overlooked when you're voting and stuff like that. But a cultural impact, like you just said, like being the first Japanese, because everybody needs that superstar you look up to. I promise you, everybody in a foreign world like Japan or something like that, if you're looking watching baseball and like Ichiro, you that's who you wanted to be as a kid if you played baseball.
Yeah.
And so he was just culturally impacted, not just impacted the game, which he did a lot of that, like you said, but he impacted so much more too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like it's totally the thing about just having to break through for Japanese players. It's almost just opening up this entire avenue for anybody who's didn't grow up in the little league system or something like that in America to actually get into the league and show them that going through the Japanese major leagues is a viable option for getting quality players.
Yeah.
And then I think that even trickles down to the Dominican Republic, Cuba, all those countries, just though their systems work too and they're viable for getting quality players.
Yes.
I think that's where his biggest impact comes through.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's what we'll leave on Ichiro Suzuki. I mean, just an incredible career. I think we're gonna retire his number in August.
Oh, easily.
Which is he deserves it. I think he's arguably one of the best players to ever play the game. So yeah, shout out Ichiro Suzuki, changed the game of baseball.
Well, and then even though he didn't get to 100%, which is above and beyond only one player, he is part of the I believe there's only 4 or 5 players that are the 99%.
Yeah.
Him, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey, and then obviously Rivera because he got the 100%.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's still very impressive.
Mhm.
And nothing to be looked down upon and everything like that. But
Yeah.
I love always talking about Ichiro stuff.
No, he's the best. Let's talk a little bit more about the Mariners. We talked last week about Miles Mastroboni, Donovan Solano, 2 guys we added to the roster who are going to try and fill those. I mean, look, after the 2024 season, it felt like we were just bruised and battered just in terms of the holes that we have in the infield. Outfield, we have a bunch of different guys who can fill those spots, and it's fine. And you have Julio, you have Victor Robles, you have Luke Raley, you have I was about to say you have Mitch Haniger. I don't know if we're gonna hold on to Mitch Haniger. I think he's still kind of up in the air whether or not. Because honestly, I like Mitch Haniger. I think he embodies being a Mariner, but I just don't think that he's past his prime. I don't think has very much left in him. He's a bit of a veteran guy, but the outfield, fine. We have people who can fill those spots. The infield has just been a black hole, just a revolving door of different guys trying to come in, and you don't have very many guys right now. So when you added Donovan Solano and Miles Mastroboni, I'd say you put Miles Mastroboni possibly at third base because I believe that's where he's played most of his career. Donovan Solano probably at second base. JP is going to play shortstop because obviously. And then first base, the question is, do you want to hold on to Justin Turner, who's past his prime, probably doesn't really fit into this Mariners lineup, or do you go after a guy like Pete Alonso? That's the question.
I mean, obviously, from a fan perspective, you're going to be dude, get Pete Alonso. We have salary cap. We haven't had a big kind of superstar free agent signing in how long?
Yeah. Whatever
it is and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to we all talk about these changes being made. We talk about, we have to trade this guy, sign this guy. This team is a really good roster. Obviously, you have probably the best bullpen in the league and everything like that, if not top 3 minimum.
Yep.
It just comes down to hitting the ball. And last year was a pretty bad season for hitting the ball.
Yeah.
And we're relatively having the same lineup, going through a whole offseason, probably changing. I think we have a new I think we did fire a batting coach, I believe. Something like that?
They're going to bring on Edgar Martinez to be the more official
main
batting coach.
Okay,
which
smart decision.
Absolutely. One of the greatest hitters in the league at that time during the Griffey era, all that stuff. Edgar Martinez was super fun to watch at the plate, a really great mental hitter, and he just knew how to hit the ball really well. So you have him as your hitting coach. That's just that's like amazing for the team.
And so, like, straight up, obviously, if there's probably gonna be holes on a lot of majority of teams, and then MLB and everything like that. But I truly believe, obviously, go get Pete Alonso. I'm never gonna say no to Pete Alonso and stuff, or upgrading a player and everything.
He's
like
got upside
that.
potential, I feel like.
But but the team we have right now, it can make the playoffs. It is just a matter of hitting. Now, obviously, if the bullpen keeps doing what they're doing, which I truly think they will do for a good amount of time now, it just comes down to even if we just have an average hitting season, just anything below average just can't be happening.
Yeah.
If we have an average, we're gonna make the playoffs. I promise you.
I know who Smith wants. He wants Mitch Garver.
Right,
Smith?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Anyway, on a different note, you're right though about like the infield being such a revolving door. It's just like, I mean, even since the days when we had that middle infield of, Robinson Cano and then having Seager at the corner and then just like that was a time where we felt kind of confident about where we were at on our infield, but it's just since then, since the trades, since all of that, like it's just been a downhill slope. And I mean, the best most consistent option we ever had, I feel like in the infield was probably like Ketel Marte, and still he was there for like 1 or 2 seasons, and since then it's just been in out. So it's like, I really hope we get a guy like Pete Alonso, but again, even with his price dropping, he still might be out of our price range, given how unwilling we are to spend money. And then two, look at the players that we've gotten in the last few years that we thought were going to be great, right? We signed Yusei Kikuchi. We thought he was going to be amazing. Kind of fell off. We signed Robbie Ray. Look at how that happens. Every time we sign a good player and hope it's going to work, it just doesn't work. Because for some reason, the Mariners' aura just... like we have no aura. For some reason our franchise just messes everything up. And that's why we had what's his freaking name, Teoscar leave, right? And then start talking crap about Seattle. And then Randy just doesn't seem to like Seattle, and it's just like, okay, even if we sign Pete, is that even gonna work good? I don't know.
That's the thing. No, it's like you said, like the aura of the Mariners or everything like that. Like people don't want to play here. It's like been a joke. Like you watch a lot of baseball movies or anything like that. It's always a joke that it's like if a player has like a fall off in his career, it always ends with him ending up at the Mariners because no one wants to play for the Mariners because we suck. We've sucked forever. And I think a part of it too is it's the Marine layer. Like literally, you think a lot. Like, I think that's what happened with Mitch Garver too. I think he has other problems too, where he kind of fell off. But a large part of it is you bring on guys like Jorge Polanco, Mitch Garver, who they're playing at ballparks where they can hit that ball and that ball is gone in Texas, right? But you come to Seattle with the Marine layer, with the moisture in the air and everything, and that shot that would have been that would have gone over the fence that down in Texas, it's a fly out to the warning track now. And that's heartbreaking. If you're a guy who's like, that's weird. That's usually gone. That's usually a home run or something like that. And now I'm
question yourself.
Now I'm 0 for 10. I can't get any hits or anything like that. And it's just super frustrating.
And well, like we said, like the Mariners, like I want to say we're just so close. Like honestly, every time, at least the last time we played playoffs, we were like America's team. Yeah. Because like everybody. Like if you just like the Mariners, you're just beating up on I don't want to say trash, but you're just kicking around trash.
You're kicking a dead horse.
See, exactly, because there's no point. Why are you doing this? And it's like, dude, we are basically like America's team. It's like how the Lions have kind of stepped into that role a little bit since the Cowboys no one really likes them anymore and stuff. It's like I want us to be that Detroit Lions where we finally get to the playoffs, have a run. I want to see them make a run, get past the first round, wild card, whatever. Like I just want to see them do so good because. It's becoming like a system. Like every time we sign a free agency, they don't do good, like you said. Yeah. And so it's like almost we have to build from scratch, which is very hard to do in baseball.
Every year. Yeah.
I feel like the perfect metaphor for our off seasons is like free agency is like a costume party, and then the guys we sign show up to the costume party with no costume on. There's the guys who are the like the outsiders. They just didn't come in right, and like they feel alienated, and that just is what it feels like every time. Yeah. No, it's problematic.
A little bit ago, you mentioned Cal Seager at the corner, and that almost brought a tear to my eye.
I know the memories, right?
I forgot about Cal Seager, man. I loved him so much. Who Cal Seager reminds me of so much is Mike Trout, a guy who's just too loyal for his own good, stays with a team that he probably should have left. And then, I hate to say that he should have left the Mariners, but I feel like he should have. And especially when
he could have left years ago,
a long time ago. But he closes out his career with us and everything, and it's just it's heartbreaking. You see a guy that talented not go somewhere where he's gonna win, and it's what's frustrating to me about it is his younger brother. Corey's younger than him. Yeah, he is younger than him. I was gonna say because he's still playing. Corey's brother, that sibling rivalry. And honestly, Kyle lost that one because Corey went on. He's got a World Series. He's got
Texas
with the Rangers,
right? And then he also played with the Dodgers for a while too, right? And that's a heck of a good team every year because of the money they spend, right? So
exactly. So I almost feel because I don't have any bad blood against Corey Seager, but at the same time, I'm just like Kyle just completely lost that sibling rivalry. He wasted his entire.
He could have went and joined his younger brother and had postseason success.
I hate having stuff like where even just Ichiro, he didn't really. Yeah. He didn't win with us, and it's so sad.
No. Yeah,
maybe that's what the voter was holding against him, but at the same time, it's still a
stupid
argument.
Get out of here! But
I hate people who always argue. It's like, where are the rings? Where are the rings? It doesn't matter, dude. He's still one of the best players in the.
It's like Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Dan Marino now.
No,
like come on, like
heck no.
No, yeah, no, it's rough. That's going to do it for the Mariners. Let's move in. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Not a lot to talk about the Seahawks, obviously, because the offseason has kind of just started and the playoffs are still underway. But I mean, we've talked about earlier about the Ryan Grubb firing, which is amazing. We hate the Huskies, so the Huskies product is not in the NFL anymore. He'll try to find another job, but I'm glad. I'm not glad to see that he kind of we had a bad season with him because that sucks. Because I want the Seahawks to have a good season, but I just like seeing a Husky just fail. Yeah, it brings a smile to my face.
And with that OC job opening and stuff like that, I saw. Because he's probably going to be the number one option for anybody looking for offensive coordinator. So they're probably including the Texans now who just fired Bobby Slovic. Which is the right decision in my head.
Yeah.
But I agree.
The both top options, probably for both of them, is the Bills' quarterback coach and everything like that. So with that being said, him going to offensive corner position, if he goes to Seattle and Seattle gives him that bag and everything like that, I would be very surprised if we didn't take a quarterback
in the draft.
Because it's almost like you bring in a new OC, Gino won't be here for long. Might as well. Doesn't even have to be in the first round. Like if you somehow sneak out like Quinn Ewers in the second or third, something like that. Give your OC someone young to work with, who's worked with Josh Allen, who's so talented and everything like that, which is a very big signing. So if you're the Seahawks, looking at that, it's not almost like, come on, give him something.
Yeah.
But it's like you're dangling a quarterback in front of his face, give him something and everything like that. Because Geno's won't be here much longer, especially with the new offense coordinator, unless he just has an abysmal season. The offense coordinator is probably going to be here 2-3 years. Minimum is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I expect him to do really good and stuff like that. So why not just off the bat, they're both starting new, build off each other with a new young quarterback.
If I'm the Seahawks, I just don't know what I'm feeling, or if I'm feeling good about any of the quarterbacks in this class, though. The depth drops off immediately after Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, right? And even then, there's a little bit of a gap right now, at least in the rumor mill, that Cam Ward's going to go at least a few spots above Shedeur. And so it's just like, I don't know. Do we feel good about Jackson Dart? Do we feel good about Kyle McCord? Do we feel good about Quinn Ewers?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I get where you're coming from because if the Bills QB coach could work with Josh Allen and work his way up to where they are now, he probably wants somebody to work with as soon as he comes to Seattle too for a fresh start. Yeah. But I think if the Seahawks do get him, they scored 34 points against us in the game we played them. I think they're looking at that and going, okay, we'll take you, right? Look what you did against us. Yeah, we'll take you on our side, right? So I think that's interesting. But do you want to talk about the Pete?
Oh, Pete Carroll. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, Pete Carroll. He got hired as the Raiders head coach. Yeah, so. I mean, he's the oldest. He's officially the oldest head coach.
70.
Yeah.
74. Yep, he was when he got fired, and he's back again as the oldest coach.
Yeah, he was when he left, and he's.
I mean, look, I will. You can never make me hate Pete Carroll. I love Pete Carroll.
He's a Seattle legend.
Legend.
Will be.
Hall of Fame coach.
Positive energy.
Dude, you want to talk about a guy that old and who can compete with these, young players in terms of how much energy they have. He probably has more energy than some of the guys in that locker room. And he's 74, 75 years old. That's just absolutely insane to me. I love, we can go to, the videos of him in the locker room and everything.
He takes his shirt off with DK.
Yeah, exactly. Or, the quote I love from him is, can you win the football game in the first quarter? And they're like, no. Can you win it in the second quarter? And they're like, no. Can you win it in the third quarter? No. Can you win it in the fourth quarter? Yeah. And he's, just getting them fired up and everything like that. I love him so much. I'm glad he's still coaching, but also at the same time, I think, being the oldest head coach.
It's bittersweet, too, since he's not with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
The one thing that we all talked about before this was the big question. It's not that his coaching ability or anything like that, but he is so old. He maybe has 5-6 years max.
Yeah.
And like you said, 3 years on his contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just straight up ended like that. But it puts the Raiders in an awkward situation where it's Pete Carroll's probably going to rebuild them.
Yeah.
And as soon as they're kind of just hitting their stride or something like that, they're probably going to have to get a new coach. And that might just ruin a whole bunch of stuff, in my opinion. And it's almost like the Raiders setting themselves up for failure. I don't want to say that because I obviously want them to succeed and stuff like Pete Carroll and everything like that. But it's really hard you have a guy that worked all this way to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And then a guy subs out and doesn't do the hard work and is at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like something's going to crumble there. And that's what I just don't understand. But I do like the hiring. Hall of Fame coach. So
yeah, I'm just curious how much gum he's gonna chew. That's what I'm excited for. Yeah, but I think it's such an interesting hire. Like on one hand, it looks like a win now coaching move, right? Because of his previous success, his age.
Yeah.
Like you think, oh, he's coming in to just like immediately build a winner. But at the same time, like he's such a player's coach. He's such just a chill guy who cares about developing his guys and also cares about his veterans to the point where I could see him really building up a good culture in Las Vegas.
Yep.
So I think that's a good hire, especially when you miss out on Ben Johnson and any of the other hot names on the market. There honestly weren't a lot of good options this hiring cycle, at least in my opinion. I feel like Ben Johnson was the big name, and then everybody else is a little bit risky.
The Lions DC also.
Yeah, but I will be honest. Well, that's a story for another day, but I don't really believe in the Lions DC.
Okay.
But anyway, so I think it's a good hiring. I like it. It's very interesting to see Tom Brady getting his hand in this hire a little bit too. He's 10% minority owner of the team, so and you would think that those two guys have a little bit of beef with each other, especially after the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, shout out to Pete Carroll.
Yeah, my favorite Pete Carroll moment is when they were on the phone with DK when they drafted him to the Seahawks, and they were calling him and they handed it over to Pete Carroll, and he's talking to DK, and DK's crying and everything. He's really emotional, and Pete Carroll, and the line he goes, "Hey, look, you're gonna be playing for Seattle. You're gonna be catching touchdown passes from Russell Wilson." And standing from that, looking at that now, I feel really bad because for DK, he loved Russell Wilson, and you could tell part of the reason why he really loved playing with Seattle was he was getting to play with Russell Wilson. He was getting to play with one of the best QBs ever in the game. And then a year or so later, we trade him to the Broncos, and then now he's got a catch from Geno Smith. Which, I mean, no slight to Geno Smith, but it's a downgrade. It's a downgrade. I think Metcalf loved Russell Wilson, and then in the past couple of years, he hasn't been able to. He doesn't have that chemistry, I don't think, with Geno as much as he did with Russell.
Well, in tensions, I guess DK has always had the quote unquote the diva personality.
Yeah. Which
is a lot of receivers just get off the bat for having a personality, I guess. But transitioning into DK, the annual trade rumors are around again, and for some reason this one feels different.
Yeah.
Packers and Chargers are both the teams being very interested right now.
Yep.
And there's always teams going to be interested in a young DK Metcalf who's a physical beast and everything like that. But there's just something like this one seems a little bit more real than the last couple years and everything like that. I just don't know how to say it or put a finger on it.
There's been a lot of stuff through the rumor mill, and at least these teams make sense. I think that's where it's starting to make it seem a little more realistic, is those two teams actually need kind of some wide receiver twos. Yeah. And DK would be wide receiver ones on both those teams, though. Yeah. Both those teams need more depth. But I don't know. I'm still a little bit against him actually being traded. I don't know if John Schneider can make himself do it. Yeah. I feel like I don't know. What Mike McDonald wants to build there is too much to sell on DK right now. Yeah. So I get where the rumors come from, because again, capitalizing on his value now before you have to pay him a good idea. But again, if we actually make some moves at quarterback and don't just keep paying Geno like 25 to 30 million a year, we might have a quarterback on a rookie contract and then be able to pay DK and be fine with it. Yeah. So I think there's an important balance to strike, but I don't know if it's this season. That's my thing. So it's definitely a wait and see, but I get where the Packers and Chargers rumors come from.
Yeah.
No, you hit it perfectly, honestly.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I totally agree with you. Like, I understand where the rumors are coming from. And I mean, I can understand it for like the Seahawks. I wouldn't say that the decaf is such a game changer for us that it's like we should like 100% we need to hold on to him. There's no way why would we ever trade him or anything like that? Yeah. Like, I totally understand him being like not necessarily on the chopping block, but being on in the trade rumors, because if there's a guy who you maybe want to give up if you want to pick up some, fill some of the holes you have, I would say he's probably gonna be one of the first guys to go. Not because he's not a talented guy, not because he isn't an athletic specimen and that he's not super super talented. It's just that I think that he is just there's just something about I think he'll probably be the first one to go because we can get the most for him, and he's not contributing so much to the team that it would leave us like handicapped or something like that. Yeah.
Well, and like Connor, you said it perfectly and everything like that. With I just don't see it happening this season.
Totally.
Because if you do just trade him in the offseason, like let's just say right now as we're talking or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're gonna probably get a lot of draft capital back and maybe a player here and there and stuff. But that also opens your door because Tyler Lockett is on the verge of retirement, basically. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired tomorrow. That puts Jason at the receiver one spot.
Deserved.
And I like him better.
Deserved.
Oh, 100%. Jason's he's going to be the top guy.
Yeah.
I think he also works better in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
That puts you in a position. You have to go get a receiver or draft a receiver. And depending with the picks and stuff like that, I still think offensive line is the most important thing because like you can still work with just Jason and some of the younger guys that we have and stuff. But it just makes another hole, if that kind of makes sense right now. Just that an unnecessary hole that could have been avoided.
You need to protect Gino at the end of the day.
Right. I totally agree. Like, is it a good use of our resources right now to force a draft pick on a receiver when we got much more pressing needs? The defense still needs work in certain areas. The offensive line is the worst thing on the team.
Yes.
And we can still back up a number of other positions as well. Of course, we can still draft a receiver, but I'd rather not have to, like, use the second round pick we get in a DK trade on a replacement when we could just keep DK.
Well, and you, like, exactly. Right now, let's just say don't trade DK and everything like that. Tyler Lockett, probably going to draft a receiver this year. Go 4th, 5th round, you get a Tank Dell, Romeo Dobbs, who are late round picks like that, and just step into that third receiver role, second receiver role that are super dominant for you. That's all you need to do. You don't need to spend a bag and trade DK, go get T. Higgins or anything like that.
It's more worth taking a flyer.
Exactly. Why not just, if this is Tyler Lockett's last season, take a receiver in the 4th. There's so many talented receivers in every year's draft and hidden development guys and just gems.
Yeah.
Like, if you do your research, which these GMs and their assistants that they all do, and these scouts, I know for a fact they just put hours and hours into time. I promise you'll find a guy that falls to you.
Absolutely. No, 100%. That's basically it for the Seahawks. Like, not a lot of news. The offseason just started. Playoffs are still going on. But, just some interesting trade rumors going on right now. Let's move in. Let's talk about the Kraken. Look, the way I want to start this off, I just want to mention the fact that if you look at I think the stats for goalies, they came out and everything. They did a bunch of rankings. Grubauer, statistically, is one of the worst goaltenders in the entire National Hockey League. If you look at a bunch of different stats, but especially in goals allowed average, I think he is second to worst or the worst.
I also think he's worse in save percentage this season.
Yeah,
with
and
860.
Which in the NHL you can't get by with that, and it's frustrating. And part of that too, I will say, I think the goals allowed average kind of gets a little skewed because of the games he had against. I want to say it was Detroit and Columbus, where he gave up like 4 or 5 in the first period.
Yeah, and this isn't.
And then that just kills your goals allowed average. But at the same time, still, I think the fall off of Grubauer is just awful. He started really well with us, and then this season has just been a steady decline from him from day one. It's just frustrating.
Well, the worst part is that Decord's now playing like a top 5 goalie. And it's like, if you just take this, or take Grubauer from last year, put him in this year, and have Decord playing like a top 5 goaltender, we were winning so many more games just purely off goaltending.
Yeah.
Doesn't even involve the players in front of him and stuff like that, just pure off goaltending. But it just happened to be like, they almost traded off. It feels like, what's the movie where Kevin Durant got his like powers taken away from him or whatever? Like, it was like Thunder Snatch or something like that. It was like... Yeah. Something crazy like that. Grubauer just completely lost
his mojo,
everything, or his skill. Like it just, and it's so hard to dude. You just look at him.
It's frustrating.
It's kind of insane. It also sucks because now the goaltender depth is just depleted.
Yeah.
Of course you could survive with one guy who's great and one guy who's not great, but it was nice to say you had 2 guys who were for sure at least going to be semi-consistent night in and night out. Now you don't have that option, and so it's just Joey now, and I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, we talked about it a couple episodes ago where we were saying was one of the special things about the Kraken is that we have we were a 2 goaltender team. Not a lot of teams are like that. A lot of teams have they have a Vasilevsky, and then they can only that's a lot of pressure on that one guy. I mean, granted they're a professional goalie, so they know how to handle the pressure, but at the same time, it helps being able to have a team where one guy can go in for 2 games straight and then 2 games and then have 2 games off, or they go one night on, one night off. That's super helpful in terms of keeping them healthy so that they prolongs their career or something like that. And I mean, and hats off to Joey. He's ranked. I think we were talking. He's ranked one of the best goalies in the league right now, especially in terms of save percentage. I mean, I remember. I want to say 2 years ago, when we brought him up, and he started a game or so, and I remember seeing, like, who's this Decord kid? Like, what's he starting this game? He wasn't, to be totally honest with you, he wasn't that good when he started with us. He was not that talented, and there were games where, like, why are we starting this guy over Grubauer? And I can't remember the other goalie we had at the time, too, who was, like, a number one, and I believe we traded him. But I remember feeling like, who is this kid? Like, why are we starting him over? And then you look at it now, the script has completely flipped. He's developed so well in the past 2 years. He's turned into one of the best goalies in the league. A lot of people are talking about him and how talented he is. I mean, hats off to him. And I mean, but it's just a lot of pressure, how young he is and how much pressure he's going to now have to take on now that Grubauer's kind of just fallen off.
Well, it kind of sucks is obviously, like, majority of the time you go, first string goalie gets probably out 50 games, the backup gets 32.
Yeah.
And so it's like a 60-40 kind of percent and everything like that. But it's also starting to get to the point where it's like our team isn't good enough in front of these goalies at all to help them. Like, in other circumstances, you probably have playoff teams that, like, they have mediocre goalies.
Yeah.
Like, let's look at the Oilers, like your Stuart Skinner and stuff like that, and Calvin Pickard. They're not exceptional, crazy good goalies by any means necessary.
No.
But the guys in front of them help them out so much and win the games. We don't have that for our goalies. And especially with Grubauer playing so bad as he is, it's almost just like why even go out? Like, our offensive guys can't do anything. Our goalie can't save much. Yeah. And it's like, it's a horrible situation we're in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, like, stretches the entire team thin at that point. When your back line's not good, your front line's not good. It's like, where
can we be good?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't string itself together. And so, I mean, it's great to see Decord doing as good as he is.
100%.
Yes.
But it's like we shouldn't be in this situation right now where, you know, he's the guy who's all of a sudden being the top defensive face on our team when previously we had a couple of guys who do that.
And our defensive play, you mentioned it, is god awful. It is horrible. It is one of the worst in the league. It's why you got games where they're putting up 6 goals against us. It's because we let them just walk in through center ice and just score on us way too easy. That's too much pressure you're putting on Grubauer. Too much pressure you're putting on Joey Decord. And in interviews with the players, a lot of times they're asking them, like, you know, how would you? Because, like, especially this season, because it feels like this season has been, like, some of the worst defensive play we've had all in the past couple of years. They're asking him, like they asked Yanni Gord. They asked him, like, what is your opinion on the defensive play of the Kraken right now? And the exact quote was unacceptable. Yeah. Like, not like, oh, you know, it could be better, something like that. He started off saying unacceptable. Like, that's, like, a huge sign. No one in that locker room is saying they're going, like, yeah, I think we're playing pretty good defense. No. They are all very disappointed with themselves, except maybe Riker Evans.
Well, yes, because like NHL, obviously all the stats came out. That's how we were
rankings
talking about
and everything.
Grubauer and everything like that. And our best defensive defensemen, so these guys don't get any of the points or whatever, but they probably don't let in a lot of goals and don't let a lot of opportunities come their way. Riker Evans, super young guy defenseman, and like we just said with Joey Decord and everything like that, where young guys are starting to shine a little bit. Yeah, and that's what it's more just like, okay, they're starting to shine as a young guy, but we need him to keep getting better and better is the thing. You can't have somebody that's just young doing good, but then fast forward 5 years later, he hasn't really gotten any better, hasn't taken that step forward and everything like that. Riker Evans is a great sign like that, and we just need to find that young guy who comes in, you know, does good, but just keeps getting better and better. Yeah. That's what the Kraken just so desperately need right now. A superstar, an all-star, something to look forward to in these games.
100%. I like Riker Evans because, I mean, he's a Coachella Firebird, brought up to play for us. And like you said, he's young, and one of the things he does really well is he's a pretty big guy. He's a really big guy on the ice. And the thing he does really well is he just hits guys. And he's not. That's the thing. He's not like Matt Rempe where he's like a goon and he just goes after and starts fights or anything like that. That's not. He's not like, because Matt Rempe is like, that's a whole different thing. He's like, what, 6'7", like 300 pounds. He's just
has fighting classes.
He's an ogre. Yeah, that's what he does. But Riker Evans is that guy who's like, he's able to have that physicality and be strategic about it. Yeah. He hits guys, separates them from the puck, sets up opportunities. He's not scoring a lot of goals. He barely picks up very many. He's more of an assist guy. He's more of just like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pick someone. I'm going to hit him. Not to draw a penalty, because that doesn't help your team at all. That's what Matt Rempe does. He just keeps drawing penalties. So I would say like Riker Evans is like a better version of Matt Rempe, a more slightly smaller,
a better hockey player.
Yeah,
Matt Rempe.
Yeah, Matt Rempe is not.
Well, he goes in there to protect the star players.
Yes,
that's
his job.
Straight up, that is his job. And obviously, you have to be relatively good at hockey to make the NHL. Yeah. But he is not an NHL hockey defenseman. Riker Evans is.
Matt Rempe scored a goal like a day or so ago, and the whole all the NHL socials were freaking out. It's like, oh my God, Matt Rempe scored a goal, and it's like this never happens or anything like that because that's not what he does. He just hits guys.
probably triple penalty minutes as points he has in his
Yeah,
career. So.
exactly. No, it's rough. So, but also we want to talk about the facts. Talking about defensemen, Brandon Montour for the Kraken. Look, super great start to the season. I will say he was picking up goals. Super fun to watch.
And then his kid was born.
He's distracted. This is why you don't get married. This is why you don't have kids.
How dare you start a family?
Hey,
Exactly.
come on, how are you so happy?
The team comes first.
Yeah.
And like 'cause it was so cool to watch. He was so talented at the start of the year. He was just like these blue line snipes from well out. Yeah. And it was like he was a defenseman scoring goals, and he's a veteran presence. And then of course Jordan Eberle, the team captain, veteran. He's
That's
out.
so sad.
He'll be back in a couple of weeks, but at the same time it's just with him being gone, it's killing us.
late kind of thing?
It's totally too late, is what I feel like. But Brandon Montour needs to step up. Chandler Stevenson doing a little bit better, but same thing. He's not scoring as many goals as we were expecting to be. We were expecting to bring on Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson, expecting them to be like
the guys.
The guys. I will say though, in terms of points, they're up there, but they just I haven't heard Brandon Montour or Chandler Stevenson's names being called very much. They just haven't been producing as much as they can be.
I can say, even though they're relatively the best players on our team, probably both top five players on our team's not a very good team to be top five in.
No.
So even though you're top five in the team and stats and everything like that, they're not living up to their contract by any means necessary. And don't get me wrong, this is year one for both their contracts.
Totally.
They both, I think, have 3+ more years in their contracts minimum. So there's still so much more games to be played in Seattle and with the Kraken and everything like that. But after this first year, maybe it's just because it's when it rains it pours situation. They're already having a bad season. Everyone's already down on each other. Maybe you just need the offseason to kind of regroup. They paid me this big bag of money for a reason. Just come back and dominate. So they're not living up right now, but there's more than enough time too.
The best thing for this team is just going to be to get to the offseason, kind of like you were hinting at. Just fight your way through. Hopefully a positive finish can be the best way to build something forward. Win a few games at the end there. Hopefully see some action from some of the younger guys. Hopefully Evans gets some more, keeps on his upward trend, something like that. Otherwise, this team is just in a state of, it feels like perpetual mediocrity. And it's giving Mariners vibes, and I don't like it.
You read my mind completely. I was about to say they pulled a Mariners because they make it to the playoffs in 2021, 2022.
Right.
And it's like second year in the league, but we finally do it. Or maybe, was that our third year? No, that was our second year in the league. We make it to the playoffs, and it's just like, let's go.
We're the new Golden Knights. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. We are a playoff team, baby. This is what we're going to do from now on. And then the next year, we're like, all right, so we made the playoffs. We made it to round 2. That was pretty good. Let's do it again. And then we had just a very, very disappointing season. That sucks. And then you come in this season like, all right, let's rebuild a little bit, and we can get back to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to miss out again. We did exactly what the Mariners did. They make the playoffs in 2022. 2023, you got some high expectations.
That was a great year to be a Seattle fan.
Oh, dude.
That 2022 year was just...
both those teams making it? Goodness gracious.
Did the Seahawks also make the playoffs?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
That was the last time I think we made it, too.
We were looking through the world with rose-tinted glasses on.
We're the city champions.
Exactly. Dude. And
that's the perfect way to put it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, for the Mariners, then 2023, you fall short. 2024, it's like, all right, well, let's rebuild a little bit. Let's do it. Played even worse. Fall short of it. That's exactly what the Kraken did. We are playing worse this year than we did last season, and we made off-season acquisitions for this season, and we still are somehow playing worse, which is like the most crazy backwards thing. That's not how it's supposed to work, and it frustrates you so much.
Well, and because we are doing so bad, obviously, the draft lottery is super up in the air and everything like that. But if we're just going off where we rank right now, we would have a top 5 pick. We'd have the 5th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk to you about that real fast. Do you think we go defenseman, or do we go for offenseman and try and get – because we're not going to have the #1 pick unless we obviously get super lucky.
Yeah.
But let's just say from a realistic standpoint, we're going from an NFL standpoint too. If the season ended today, we're the 5th worst team.
Yeah.
So we have the 5th pick. Do we go offenseman and try and get the superstar? Or we go defenseman. He can still be a superstar, but build up. Like, a defenseman usually takes longer than a Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard offenseman guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at mock drafts right now. I've looked at 2. First one goes left wing. Second one goes defenseman.
Yeah.
So
I'm going defenseman. Honestly, our defensive play has just been so horrible, just in terms of not getting bodies on pucks, not just like shutting down opportunities. Like even some of the worst teams, like the Ducks and the Blackhawks and the Sharks. Sharks, I'll give it to them though. They got Celebrini, so that's fine. And maybe the Blackhawks because they have Connor Bedard. But like some of these just really bottom level teams just coming in and putting up like 6-goal games against us is just disappointing. You can't have that. And so it just comes down to defense. Just the fact that we can't shut down opportunities. And as talented as Joey is and as talented as Grubauer was, you can't be stopping as many shots if you're getting 30 plus shots put on you game after game after game because we're not backing you up. It just won't happen.
Well, in like you said, I can understand both point of views honestly, because it's not looking like we're going to be playoff contending or at least championship contending for a good amount of time now.
Probably not.
So it's like if you do take your chance on a forward, center, left wing, right wing, whatever it is. Like I heard a guy like Roger McQueen, even looking right now, 6'5" center.
Yeah.
Who's a forward. That is someone that you can build up like a Tage Thompson. That is someone that you would love to see, someone you want to see, probably has a nasty slap shot, just a big dude. And that's someone that can come in and be your guy. Totally. A 6'5" center. You can market him pretty well. McQueen. Come on now. Get you out. All that stuff. So I understand both because obviously the defensive side takes them a little bit longer. Why not build the defenseman? And then maybe you can get offensive guys that are coming like Jordan Eberle kind of guys that come and get you points, squeeze out wins and everything like that. But then I also see, like I just said, the forward side where it's like get your superstar and build from there.
Yeah.
So this is also a weird draft where I want to be mad in any position, honestly, besides goalie.
Yeah.
Probably because just don't choose a goalie.
Yeah, no, don't do that. We don't need that.
Unless they just truly reach on a guy. And as the draft starts to come up and everything like that, we'll probably get more in depth in players and who we think we should draft. Probably mock drafts here and stuff in there.
Yep.
But unless they reach on a guy, there's not really a bad pick if they truly do the research.
Got you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tough debate. Like you're kind of saying, like we need a miracle. The Kraken need a miracle guy right now. Some guy that's just like the face of the franchise would be great. But at the same time, it's like if you're kind of projecting yourself not to have a top 3 pick, I feel like you kind of just go best. Or you shore up the position that needs the most depth, and that's really the defensive side.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm leaning more towards getting a defenseman in that case. I would love a 6'7" center who's just bodies people and just has the ability to just carry a team in the middle of the floor. But like, I don't know. I think going with defenseman is probably the safest pick right now.
And we've tried going for like the face of the franchise with like Matty Beniers and Shane Wright and everything like that, and they've fallen short. And
you're right.
It's super frustrating. I think we're kind of cursed in that department, which is funny for me to say because we've only existed for a couple of years now, and to be saying that we have curses is like we're not like
It's the Seattle curse.
Yeah, exactly. It's just for all Seattle sports. We try and bring someone on, and it just doesn't work. It's just something about the Pacific Northwest is just like it just kills us.
Well, hey, mark my words. I'm looking at this Roger McQueen guy. He's looking really good. If we do end up drafting him, I'm going to promise you guys right now he will be a superstar, all-star for the Kraken. Yeah. If we do get him 6'5", a power forward at center.
Yep.
In his stats, he has 8 goals and 3 assists in 8 games.
Yeah.
So he is a goal scorer. And that is something that the Kraken need. But I would probably go defenseman too.
I like the confidence.
Roger McQueen, I'm telling you, he's going to be that guy. We'll come back in like 2 months to talk about him again probably.
Totally. Yeah, no. That's going to do it for the Kraken. We're going to move into our last segment of the day. As we all know, the NFL playoffs are still going on. We put together our bracket about 2-3 weeks ago or something like that. And
our Super Bowl guys aren't there anymore.
Our entire our prediction was the Baltimore Ravens and Detroit Lions were going to play for the Super Bowl.
And we were confident about that. It's hard to not be confident about that.
It goes back to the fact that it's like no matter how confident you are in your bracket, no matter how much you look at the facts, no matter how much you like analyze it and think like hey, this is foolproof.
It's only 4 quarters. Yeah.
It comes down to that. Sports are just there's so much that can happen that completely changes the game. Yeah. And so, I will say, on the AFC side, we were essentially perfect. We picked the Texans to beat the Chargers. We picked the Ravens to beat the Steelers. We picked the Bills to beat the Broncos. Then we picked Kansas City to beat the Texans, even though we wanted the Texans to win. Kansas City won that. Well, then we had Baltimore beating the Bills.
That wasn't crazy to say. Yeah. It was a 50-50 game. And like we said, if the Bills did win, which they did, it wasn't anything surprising. Yeah. But it's when we head to the NFC side, when the Lions faced off against Commanders. The Commanders, we did choose them to lose in the first round, but it also wasn't a surprise that they did beat Buccaneers, and we talked about it. But I was very shocked that the Lions didn't beat the Washington Commanders. That was insane to me and just crazy. And How did that happen? A great game, though. A lot of highlight stuff like that. Chose the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then so I think we just take our picks right now because anything we say that makes sense.
I want to ask you real quick. I mean, looking at our AFC side where we picked the Texans, Baltimore Bills, what are you ranking that bracket pick basically on like 1 to 10? What do you think about that?
I feel like it was all very accurate. I'd give it like an 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a little bit of Kansas City bias, but I would have picked Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl. Or actually, the biggest one is I would have still picked Bills over Ravens, but obviously that's still a toss-up.
Yeah.
Totally.
But overall, like, it was that's
About
about as good as you can get for an AFC bracket.
Exactly. And you look, I was looking at the NFC. We picked the Vikings. Rams ended up winning. We picked the Buccaneers. The Commanders ended up winning. We picked the Packers. The Eagles ended up winning. Then we had the Lions beating the Commanders. Insane shock. And then we picked the Eagles to beat the Rams, which they did. How are you ranking the NFC side? Be gentle.
I mean, obviously they're all wrong.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of those picks I would have made too. Yeah. I don't know how confident I was in the Packers. The Commanders, I mean, it's hard to look in hindsight, but I might have liked them a little bit more than the Buccaneers, and then the Rams, you never know. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you can't predict the Commanders being in the NFC Championship game. That's so hard to predict.
Oh, no.
So I give it like a 5. Like it's not your guys' fault for not knowing that, right? Like that's tough. There's a couple of them, sure, maybe I would have gone the other way, but most of those picks I think I would have made as well. Yeah.
Well, and something that I'm proud about is that maybe besides the Packers one, which I think we just threw an upset out there just because there could always going to be an upset, something like that.
Right, it's fun.
But we had great reasoning behind every single thing.
Yeah.
Like,
there's just some factors you can't control.
Exactly. Like the Buccaneers game, they're in Tampa Bay. They're looking good going to the playoffs. We didn't think the Commanders had a lot of experience, which comes down to it in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Apparently not with the Commanders, how they're doing so far.
Yeah.
And it was still a hard-fought game, too.
Exactly. And it was still a great game and everything like that. Came down to game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
And then if you go to the Rams and Vikings, like, everything going up that game, the Vikings were the better team. Mm-hmm. They probably have Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. Only thing they didn't have was home field advantage. Oh, then you go, because of the wildfires, obviously a horrible situation. Yeah. You go to Arizona, so they quote-unquote don't have a home field advantage.
Totally.
And so I'm looking at that, I'm like, this is just setting the Rams up for failure, and then they just came in and dominated.
Yep.
So, like, we had reasoning, but it's the NFL at the end of the day. Yeah. It truly is.
So much that you can't predict that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, let's look at the AFC Championship. We got Kansas City going up against the Bills. Who you guys got? In Kansas City. Who you guys got for that one?
The only team that has beat the Kansas City Chiefs all year, in the past, like, I think 20 games, because you're including last year's playoffs, is the Bills, and it's in Kansas City.
The home field advantage definitely play a role for Kansas City. I think they've only played now. They play against Texans at home. They're going to be playing against the Bills at home.
They've only played at home. Like, it's insane to think, but I want to say the Bills, and I want to say they're the better team, and I think Josh Allen deserves it. But the Chiefs are they're that team.
There's just something about
it. Like, it's almost becoming like the Patriots and Tom Brady, where it's like. You can't ever count them out.
Can't vote against them.
This was quote unquote a bad season for them. Yeah. And they went 15. Like still haven't scored 30 points in a game this season. Yeah. And that's insane to me how far they've gone and everything like that. But that just proves how well coached they are. Proves how methodical they are and just their drives and everything like that. They don't need big plays to win a game like the Bills do, in my opinion. I think the Bills do need big plays to thrive off that. So I'm going with the Chiefs, and they're heading back to the Super Bowl for the third time in a row.
Yeah. If there's any game that's going to be a toss-up, it's absolutely this game. Yeah. Sometimes my gut wants to lean towards the Bills. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. Again, if there's anybody that can go into Arrowhead and actually prove himself, like Joe Burrow did it a few years ago, Allen could do it again. But I just look at the past I think it's 4 times now that the Bills and the Chiefs have played each other in the playoffs. Yeah. Yes, the Bills get the Chiefs a lot in the regular season. Yeah. But the playoffs is where it matters, and they still have yet to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Yeah. Josh Allen has yet to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. I don't know if I'm counting against that. I'm still taking the Chiefs, maybe by like 3 points or something like that. I don't know. Even if it takes another 13-second drive, like they still will probably find a way to pull it out. But I have nothing against anybody who takes the Bills just from the perspective of
It's a toss-up.
Yeah, it
is going to be a close.
Such a toss-up.
I definitely think like what you're saying. Like Kansas City has a clutch factor when it comes to the playoffs. They just find a way to get it done. They find ways to win football games.
And that's all you need. It doesn't matter if it's a good team or a bad team.
But I will say though, I think that this isn't a dig. I don't like digging at the Texans, but I will. The Kansas City plays against in their first playoff game against the Texans, right? Yeah. And they pick up a win there. Mm-hmm. And not to say that the Texans aren't a good football team.
Oh, but they're not the Bills or Ravens.
No.
I 100% agree
Yeah,
with you.
so I think like this, it's like setting up, it's setting up a track game for the Bills, where I think the Kansas City are like, oh, that was easy. Not saying that they like,
No, 100%.
But like, it's like warming up with like, 2-pound weights and now trying to lift a 50-pound dumbbell or something like that. Like, it's gonna be really, really hard.
It's not gonna be the same environment, anything.
I think they're gonna get punched in the mouth come that first quarter. I mean, that's not to say they're not gonna turn it around. Like they're not gonna somehow pull something out because that's just what they do.
Because Andy Reid is a genius.
Yeah.
So.
But there's something deep down inside me that I just have a feeling that Josh Allen hasn't made it to a Super Bowl yet in his career, has he?
No.
Yeah. So there's just something in my core that is telling me that it's time for the Bills and Josh Allen to make it to the Super Bowl.
Would love to see.
Yeah, exactly. I
to see it.
just want to see it so bad. So
Yeah, if there's a season that he's supposed to make it, this is probably the
one.
season that he's supposed to make it.
The weakest the Chiefs have
And
been
again,
to.
I think this is the team to beat the Chiefs if there is a team to beat the Chiefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like even if the Ravens made it, I didn't have any confidence in the Ravens. I would have if we had the Ravens against them in the AFC Championship game, I probably would have picked the Chiefs by like a couple scores. But if but with the Bills there, I'm picking the Chiefs by 3 or maybe even the Bills winning.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Close.
I have that belief in the Bills. I'm still going Chiefs, but
yeah.
right,
No,
it's
which
gonna
is
be
respectable. That's
heck
it's
of
gonna be a
close.
great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let's look at the NFC Championship game. You got the Commanders going up against the Eagles.
So weird.
No one ever thought the Commanders were going to make it this far. Who you guys got in this?
And Jalen Hurts did say he's gonna be playing the game with a knee brace on and everything.
Oof, yeah.
So he's been playing like his mobility's a little bit gone, which makes him like that is one of his strengths as a quarterback. Obviously, is running and stuff. But I'm 0 for 2 against the Commanders right now and not choosing them. But
They take it personally, don't
there's
they?
just no way the Washington Commanders with a rookie Jane Daniels, by any means, he's a great quarterback. And I'm not dogging on them, but it's almost just like there's no way they make it. And the Eagles have been here before. They've made 2 Super Bowls in like the past 5 seasons.
Yep.
Or whatever it is.
Something like that, yeah.
I see the Eagles I also think are the better team,
Probably.
but it comes down to just
The Commanders are the underdog.
plays. Yeah, the Commanders are underdog. It's gonna be in Philadelphia, and then I also saw a thing. They dressed up the Rocky statue in Commanders gear, and that's happened 4 times, and since they started doing that, and every team that's dressed up as the opposing team has lost.
Yeah.
So not saying that it's a superstition or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Eagles because I just can't see it happening. I don't know what it is. I can't give you a game plan. Like obviously stop Jalen Daniels from running.
Yeah.
Or like because I truly haven't even watched enough Commanders games to be like they're insane at this. But I have to go with the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think the Commanders have several ways they can win this game, and I think that's one of the main ways that they might be able to pull this off. Like, it could be close. Like, it's very hard to stop Saquon, but also Saquon sometimes just needs big runs to actually do something. So if they can limit him to at least some chunk gains rather than these really big one-time runs, then they're in for a good time. And there's no doubting that this Commanders team can score. But again, like, I don't want to bet against Jaden Daniels anymore, but it's just the rookie thing. I don't know. We've never seen a QB like this in a playoff scenario. And like you said, the Eagles have been here before. I'm even with Jalen Hurts being limited, I still believe in him more in the playoffs. And I don't know. I think this Eagles team is meant to go to the Super Bowl, especially after the way the Lions looked the past couple of weeks. I don't know, man. I'm still taking Eagles. Yeah.
Well, and like I want to point out what you just said with stopping Saquon and stuff and limiting him. That is exactly what Bobby Wagner said in the interview and stuff like that. It's like he came out and said he's the best running back in the league. He was like, you're not going to stop him from getting his yards and everything like that. He's just such a good running back. It's just, can you contain him enough? And that's all they need to do. He's going to get it probably his 100 yards. He's going to get a big run here and there. But it's just a matter of limiting them.
Yeah.
And so that's their game plan coming into it. Because it's like, if you have the mindset of, I'm going to shut him down, he's not going to get a lot of yards, and he does it in the first quarter, then you can start losing a little bit of confidence and everything like that. But the mindset of just keeping him in check goes throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a great game plan with what they're saying.
Yeah, jeez. Both of you guys are going Eagles. I'm going to have to be the outlier here. I'm going to go Commanders because I like an underdog.
Yeah.
I like seeing a team like this that's like no one believes in them because, Seattle's been that team for a lot of different reasons, especially in baseball and hockey and everything. So I relate to that. I have that feeling of being like, people are looking at you like no one expected them to go this far. They're gonna get knocked out once they play a good team. Oh, they played a good team and they kind of beat them. All right,
Yeah.
well, once they play this team now, they're like,
Exactly.
when's it gonna stop? Like this is a team that they're finding a way to win, and I want to see them do it. And I can hear Bobby Wagner in the locker room for them with the defense just being like, we're all we got, we're all we need. That's what I just want to see Bobby Wagner, former Seahawk, former part of Legion of Boom and all that kind. I want to see him just lead this, or not. He's not going to lead this team to a Super Bowl, obviously, but I want him to get another ring. I want to see Bobby Wagner. I want to see that legacy.
We're all rooting for him.
Oh,
yeah,
everybody in Seattle.
The legacy of the Legion of Boom. I want to see someone else go and get another ring before they retire. I mean, that's just what I want to see. So that's why I want to see the Commanders win it.
And these two games are toss-ups. Like, even though I chose the Chiefs and Eagles, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm surprised if the Bills or Commanders win.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going with, like, I guess, gut and everything like that, and just, like, can't count these teams out or whatever. But, like, these are two very good games I expect to be played out here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to pose a quick question. What scenario do you guys actually want to see? Just disregarding who you think's going to win. What Super Bowl matchup is your dream matchup out of these four teams?
So we already had the Chiefs and Eagles.
Yeah.
And, like, recently they haven't, like, I'm a big person for, like, I love big plays. I want, like, that Lions-Commanders game was awesome to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
even
for
though
sure.
I wanted Lions to win. So, like, when it comes to Eagles-Chiefs again, they don't really make big plays. So, and we've already seen it before. And then, like, Patrick Mahomes is going for his third ring. That is the cool factor in that, where it's, like, a three-peat. So, that is, even though a lot of people don't like the Chiefs and everything like that, and I personally am not a huge Chiefs fan or anything like that, but three-peat in anything is just insane to watch and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to see the Chiefs-Eagles, though. I think, honestly, the Bills-Commanders is the most exciting game we can get.
Well, I mean, like you said with the three-peat and everything, I think when we were watching one of the playoff games, we were watching the Texas versus Chiefs game, they mentioned the fact that there were, like, all the teams, no one's three-peated.
No one's made it to the Super Bowl when they're trying to three-peat.
They haven't made it that far. So I think it would be pretty historic to see Patrick Mahomes do that and make it to the Super Bowl. We'd be the first team to make it to the Super Bowl trying to three-peat.
That's going to be the whole storyline for the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
But at the same time, also my Patrick Mahomes hatred tells me that I don't want to see that happen. So, and you're right. The Chiefs and Eagles, we've seen that before, and that we know how that turned out and everything. So I think that's, like, if you want to, like, we're going to run that back, that makes no sense to me. I feel like we should, like, I wouldn't want to see Chiefs or Eagle matchup. I would want to see, I mean, I'm kind of with you where I want to see, like, a Bills and Commanders.
They make big plays.
Yeah.
That is, like, big play things. And
it's because I mean, like, it's a team it's with Josh Allen is incredibly talented, right? Who's just a really dominant team in the league. And then you have the Commanders, who, there's always those jokes where it's like, the team with the power of friendship makes it all the way to, like, that's what I feel like with the Commanders. Like, it's just like they're just finding a way to win and beat these really good teams. And so you have the underdog going up against just a favorite in that. And I love games like that. I don't necessarily love games where it's like, the two best, like, oh yeah, shocker, the two best teams in the league are in the championship or something like that. I want to see one where it's like, is this team that's like no one thought was going to make it this far, are they going to win a championship? Awesome. Guys on that team who, think like, these guys are never going to win a ring. They're never unless they get traded to a better team. Guys who won a Super Bowl with a team that should never have won. That's what I want to see.
No, 100%.
So it's like, that's just my opinion on it. So who do you want?
You guys are not going to like me because I've got the completely opposite opinion. No! I think Chiefs-Eagles rematch is like the way to go. If there's going to be an instant guaranteed classic, that is Eagles versus Chiefs. Yeah. I think the Eagles would love a chance to get revenge on the Chiefs and make it happen, even without Jason Kelce. I don't care. Yeah. Whatever. Just the first time they played, it was what, 38-35 or 33-30. I can't remember the exact score. I think it was 38-35. That is just like
close game.
The game. And I don't think it'll be as high scoring, but I could see it being kind of similar to when the Chiefs and the 49ers played last year, and it was like 22-19 or whatever. Yeah. I could see it kind of being a grinding out game, but it being close and it being fun throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And for some reason that just gets me a little bit more hyped. I would love to see a rookie quarterback. Believe it or not, I'd love to see Josh Allen, get a shot at, solidifying his legacy, but I don't know. There's something about Chiefs-Eagles rematch that just gets me going.
You're not wrong. Like, I 100% agree with you.
I think regardless of what happens, it's going to be a great game. Yeah. But something I also want to point out is that the Eagles' X factor now, and I'd love to see it in a Super Bowl, is Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Saquon deserves it. Out of any running back in the league besides Derrick Henry, I think he deserves a ring the most.
Yeah. The two dudes that I think deserve at least they're playing a Super Bowl has been Terry McLaurin, as he's been first 6 years in his career been stuck with horrible quarterbacks, but he's always stayed loyal to them, always put up great stats. 1,000-yard seasons. Finally gets it, and they're finally making a run. It's Terry McLaurin, but then Saquon Barkley. He's already won more playoff games in this run than he did all with the Giants. And it's just insane to see. I would love to see Saquon. And honestly, I don't think any playoff matchup is bad. So
yeah, we need to study that Terry McLaurin quarterback thing.
It's horrible.
I'm already trying to think of the quarterbacks he's had, and
like RP Dwayne Haskins.
Right,
like,
exactly. And then you had like Alex Smith, Carson Wentz. Who else? Colt McCoy, Sam Howell,
Taylor Heineke on their one playoff run versus
we
Brady
have had
the
an interesting run of quarterbacks.
And he's always been consistent. And he's always he's obviously getting paid to be there, which obviously you want a bag if you're going to stay in not the best franchise, but he stayed there, and it's finally working out for him, and I'm so honestly happy for him.
Yeah.
So
totally agree.
100%. Yeah, a lot of great picks here. I mean, playoffs coming up here. We'll see who makes it. I mean, a lot of us got different opinions. I think we got a lot of different things going on. But that's going to do it for our episode today of Slice of Seattle. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Connor Simmons. Thank you, Connor Seuferling. Remember, everybody, it is a great day to have a great day. And go Cougs.